Hey there, it's Trisha, and I wanted to go over the trades for Thursday, August 13th. We use two simple setups using three charts with indicators for confirmation before we ever take a trade. Definitely a conservative way to trade and enter the market, and you can check that out at www.easyemintrade.com. On Thursday morning, we actually had a squeeze firing off here at just about 9:50, 9:51, and it was picture perfect. We actually had it firing off. We were right under the close from Wednesday, and everything's in line here. Here's the bar here on our broader view of the market. Everything's in line here. However, we had consensus for business inventories coming out at 10, and so my personal rules require that any market moving information that's coming out is a way of report or consensus that I have to wait for it to be to pass. So unfortunately, following my plan, stuck to it and did not take that trade. And the reason is we often wind up on the wrong side of a trade when we have pending news or reports or numbers coming out. So for me, I just choose to wait until it's over. If I'm not already in a trade and profitable about 10 minutes before information's due to come out, then I'm going to wait till after the report or consensus. So that's just my personal choice, and it does not have to be yours. But that squeeze was firing off, or you could have taken this trend line break as well, knowing that we did have a support area here based on our daily chart. This was a trade that we took off the 512 tick chart at 1040, and I wanted to point this out as a perfect example of when you have something firing off on the 200 where everything's just not quite in line at that moment, that you can wait for it to fire off on the 512. If you see my crosshair here on the middle chart where that's firing off, you can see all the way to the left on our longer tick chart that that bar is not closed above that moving average yet. And when we're that close to that moving average, I'm always going to wait until it closes above it. If there was more room between where we were looking to get in and where that moving average was, then I would still take the trade. But oftentimes that moving average on the longer tick chart acts as a resistance area. So I choose to wait for it to close above or below, depending on the entry that we're taking. Because, if you watch that every day, you will know that that is often an area where, it could easily turn into a topping tail. So with that said, you can see here we had it firing off on the 512 after this closed. And so we took that, and that was at 1040. We entered at 1,775, and depending on how you managed it, you can have got your +1, +2 out, and realistically you would have been trail stopped out under this area here. So that worked out nicely. And earlier we did have a trend line break here, and the way that you enter is when the trend line break occurs and you have a bar close, in this instance, above it, we're typically entering in half a point above that. So with that said, we were very close to this moving average right above our head, and as I was just saying, that is an area where oftentimes you can go sideways for quite a while before you break through it, or you could hit your head on it and then have a pullback. So if I ever have anything occurring setting up very close to that area, I'm always going to wait till I get through it. And so then once I'm through it, then I have the other option, is I could always look for a squeeze. So when I'm that close to any above head resistance, I'm always going to opt to wait to get through it. This setup occurred on the 512 as well, and again you have it firing off here on the 200, but if you look all the way to the left on our longer tick chart, we are right above the moving average. So as I said earlier, I'm going to wait till I get below that, close below it, before I'm looking for an entry. So with that said, we had it firing off over here on our 512, and we're aware that we do have a support area right below us. Our entry was 1,425, so we know that we have realistically 2 points below us before we possibly could have a bounce. So so you'd want to take your +1 and then realistically +1.5, depending on how you want to manage it, because you can't count on the fact that you're going to get all the way to that 1,225 before bouncing. So good to take some profits off the table and then just trail stop out. Which of course is what you would have did on this trade because it did bounce, so you would have trail stopped out on your final third. You did have a trend line break here, but again, would you have taken that trend line break knowing that you have a strong area of support below you? No, I wouldn't have, and I didn't. I'm always going to opt for the squeeze whenever I can take it. So everything was in line to take this. Our indicator here was in line. Our trend indicator was in line. We're in line here. We're below the moving averages, so we're good. So that worked out nicely as well. So I hope that helps, and you can check that out at www.easyemintrade.com, and if you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email, and that's you can find on my website as well.